Welcome on into a live edition of the Broncos Breakdown by Chat Sports. Matthew Peterson here, running through some of my favorite draft picks for Denver in the 2025 NFL Draft. And we're going to zero in on one of those picks in particular. So we have a fun live show planned out for everyone today. Always appreciate those of you that hang out with us on your Tuesday afternoon. As always, though, we're going to let the audience build up for a few minutes because I know not everyone is right on time. So shout out your city for me in the chat. Let me know where you are tuning in from. If you are a frequent flyer here, to keep things, fresh and new for you, shout out your zip code. I'm going to see if I can guess which state you're from. If you are new to our live coverage, shout out your state so I can start to get, a little bit of a repertoire with everyone that's tuning in. So let me know where you are watching from. I'm going to give shout-outs to people like Ty Man the Buckeye in the chat. We've got Quentin in the chat here. No Fly Zone. Greatly appreciate all of you guys for getting in the chat and, making your presence known. Shout out your city for me as we get going into today's live show. I've got Zach tuning in from Dallas. What's going on, Zach? We are just down the road from you right now. Chat Sports headquartered in Dallas, Texas. Judson 04609. I'm going to go with Massachusetts. That's big Northeast energy right there with the 0 to open up your zip code. Josh is in Idaho. Grant, One-Arm Bandits. No Fly Zone, 87. I'm going to go chalk, and I'm going to say Colorado. Josh in Sandpoint, Idaho, to be exact. Casey, the running back. Are we talking about who's going to start in week 1? The running back, RJ Harvey? Not a bad guess right there. Keep shouting out your city for me, though. Judson's in Maine. Damn it. Wrong Northeast state. Wrong part of New England. Matthew is an 805. 805. I'll go with Colorado. My backup's Wyoming, though. So I'm going to cover my chips a little bit between those two states. 32 people tuned in right from the jump. Thank you all for watching because I know we're in a weird spot right now in the NFL calendar. We're like, the draft is not that long ago, so it still feels kind of fresh. But also the draft was kind of long ago now, right? It's not yesterday's news. It's like last week's news. But we're also not at OTAs and mini camp where we have, new content to really sink our teeth into. We're kind of in this no man's land in between. But in 8 days, we get the 2025 NFL schedule. So that will be exciting. We can take a look at maybe who Denver can open up the season with. But we do have a mailbag coming up in a little bit, so get your questions in right now. Shout out your city, hashtag Broncos, or Super Chat. If you Super Chat, you skip the line, you go right on screen for everyone watching to see. It's a great way to support the channel if you like what we do, and we'll give you priority access to have your question, your take, your idea on screen for everyone tuned in to see. If you are unable to Super Chat, that is not a problem. Just use hashtag Broncos in the chat so producer Moose can pick his favorite questions and throw them on screen during our mailbag. Quentin Cinco de Mayo made us forget about the draft. I host trivia, and one of the trivia questions tonight, spoiler for anyone that's going to be at the Nodding Donkey in a few hours, is do you know Cinco de Mayo was fought over the celebration of a Mexican army triumph after defeating what country in 1868? It is not about sinking a boat of mayonnaise.
I'm going to say Spain.
Not a bad guess. Would have been my guess as well. Did not know Mexico had a war temporarily with France. Oh. Yeah. They butted heads. All right. Wheezy, what's your prediction for who we play week 1? Wheezy, take that question and throw a hashtag Broncos into it, and I'll answer it during our mailbag. So, love the question. Toss it in there. Lord of Liberty is in California. Judson's in Bar Harbor. Matthew is, I can't pronounce that. Skohagen, sorry. No Fly Zone, Albuquerque, New Mexico. Damn, Casey's in Tacoma. All right, let's get into the agenda for today's live show. I want to rank Denver's 7 draft picks in terms of my preference for the picks given where they went and my outlook on them as a player going into the 2025 season and beyond. Then there is a player in this draft that something could be Denver's next version of a Courtland Sutton, which for a third-round pick, spoiler, would be a very good pick overall. And then finally, a mailbag, hashtag Broncos, like we mentioned, or Super Chat. Okay, Are we ready to get into the first segment? We've got 12 likes so far on our show. Can we get to 15? 3 more people tuned in. Click that like button. It's completely free, and it really does help support the channel as it brings a lot of eyeballs here because YouTube looks at the likes and goes, oh, this is popular. Let's show it to more Broncos fans on YouTube. So if you have not liked the video yet, I would really appreciate it if you could go ahead and do so and click that thumbs up button. Once we get to 15 likes, we are starting the first segment of today's show. 2 likes away. Let's get there. I've got faith in Broncos country. I'm calling on Wheezy. I'm calling on Judson, Matthew, Casey, No Fly Zone. If you guys have not liked the video yet, what are you waiting for? There we go, 19 likes. All right. Are we ready to roll? All right, Mr. Moose, let's dive right on in. On today's episode, I want to go through all 7 picks that Denver made in the draft and give you my rankings of my least favorite to my favorite, while factoring in where Denver got each player, because where you get them in all 7 rounds is really important based on how big of an investment you made into that guy. So we're going to check out all 7 picks Denver made and my rankings for them. So as a starting off point, let's go to number 7 with 4th round pick out of Alabama, outside linebacker Que Robinson. I've got him at number 7 because I feel that at round 4, sure, it's day 3, but it is still that fringe late day 2 type of player that can slip into day 3. It's a good player, or at least a good spot to get a good player. And I'll be honest, I just don't quite see it. Because the more I read about Q, the more I see that he's a really good special teamer. And I don't mind special teams in day 3 of the draft. But in round 4, when that's the calling card, I just am having a tough time, wrapping my head around it. He's a little bit of a tweener, and when it comes to his size, at sub 250 pounds, I don't think in a 3-4 defense he can play defensive end. So I think he's destined to be an outside linebacker. And Denver's outside linebacker core is in a really good spot. Robinson, 5 years at Alabama. He only started 5 games, all of which was in his senior year. He missed the last 4 or 5 games of the year with an elbow injury. But Robinson, I felt like at round 4 was a bit of a reach, whereas most people had him looked at as like a round 5 to 6 type of player. So I was still hopeful in round 4 you can find someone who could push to maybe see the field a little bit in, their first or second year. I don't see how Robinson sniffs the field unless an injury happens. Cooper and Benito are cemented as your starting outside linebackers. Tillman and Ellis, I think, showed great flashes and strides last year. I like that foursome as a rotation. So I'm not getting a guy who I think has a real chance of, cracking the field or seeing the field. And his upside is special teams at round 4. Yeah, I'm going to put that at number 7 on my list right here. All right, moving on to number 6 now. This is just a reflection of, hey, when you go round 7, I'm not going to have a really early, ranking for you. It is the Utah football and basketball player Caleb Lohner, who played a lot of college basketball, started off at BYU, then he went to Baylor, then he went back to Utah to play for the Utes. He is 6'7", 256 pounds. This is Sean Payton in round 7 going, F it. It's the last round of the draft. I've got dinner reservations, Dane Cook, pay-per-view, 30 minutes. We're just going to take someone who might be my next Jimmy Graham, and if it doesn't work out, oh well, it's the 7th round of the draft. If it does work out, I'm a freaking genius. I don't think Lohner is a shoo-in to even make the roster. I think he is likely going to be a practice squad developmental pick for the next 2 years. And that's fine. The guy only had 4 grabs last year for the Utes. He just needs to learn more about the game of football, right? Like in terms of what it's like to play it at the highest level. So he's a practice squad guy in my eyes, which for round 7, I don't have an issue with that. So that's my number 6 pick for the Denver draft class. By the way, we're going to look at 5-1 in just a moment, but I was looking at the analytics for the month of May, and we've got a slight lead on the Chiefs report in likes. So if you haven't yet, click that thumbs up button down below today and for the rest of the month so we can take down the Kansas City Chiefs here at Chat Sports in likes for the month of May. At number 5, I'm going to go with the 6th round selection, and that is Jeremy Crawshaw. I could have moved him up a spot or two because he's Australian, which is super freaking cool, but I did not want to lose sight of, hey, despite him being an Aussie, and that's going to lead to some really cool sound clips, he is still a punter. Right now, I've got him as the backup for Matt Hack. I think he's the backup for the first day of OTAs and minicamp and training camp. I think by week 1, he's probably going to be your starter. He's got a really strong leg. He had some impressive punting stats for the Florida Gators last year. It's still a punter, but I feel like there is some sneaky good value if you can get, a surefire thing at punter or kicker late in the draft. I mean, how many times have you debated with your friends sexual assault allegations for Justin Tucker? If he were to enter the draft, which round would he go in? Like 9 to 8 years into his NFL career, I think you can make an argument that if Justin Tucker was to be redrafted in his draft class, he could be a first-round pick, right? When he was really, in his prime, were you going to find 32 players in that class who were absolutely a slam dunk better pick than him? So if Crawshaw is even just a B-plus punter for round 6, I don't mind it. Now, at number 4, I'm going to go with the Illinois wide receiver, Pat Bryant. He was a 3rd-round pick, so a decent investment made in him, a top 100 selection, but he was not one of my top 3 favorite picks. 6'2", 204 pounds. So from a size perspective, he's got good length and he's got good body control to win a lot of contested catches. He's not quite as big as Courtland Sutton was coming out of SMU, but for the last 3 years, he started on that Fighting Illini offense, putting up nearly 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns. Ask yourself this. Has there ever been a moment when you've got the YouTube TV college football quad box on and you go, this Illinois offense is just an absolute air raid right now? Probably not. So if they've got a receiver with nearly 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns, he is not a product of the system. He is the system. So I can get behind someone that had an incredible amount of production at a school that is not designed to churn out a bunch of receiving yards and touchdowns for an offense that historically does not pass the ball super duper well. So I've got Bryant coming in at number 4 on my list because while there is still some good upside to like here, and I do think he could be a nice heir to Courtland Sutton, it still felt like a little bit of a reach to me. The speed's a concern. He ran over a 4.6 40-yard dash, so he's not going to separate super well. I do feel like he's better with the ball in his hands. The yards after catch is real with Bryant, but 4.6 speed, I feel like that does put a bit of a ceiling on you. And for being a 3rd-round pick, I like for that ceiling not to be as low as it might be with Bryant. All right, before we look at my top 3 picks for Denver, I do want to give a quick shout-out to our sponsor today, which is Prize Picks. It is the best place to turn your sports knowledge into cash. With millions of members, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 2,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. Every Tuesday, Prize Picks will discount several projections on the board, usually from 15 to 25%. They call it Taco Tuesday. Let me give you an example of what that looks like as we're filming right now during our live show on Tuesday. So, Donovan Mitchell, they put his points down a few notches. So I took the more on that bad boy right there, along with the more on Ovi at 0.5 goals, and the more on Zach Wheeler as well. So getting all of my sports fixes in. Get started today with Prize Picks. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. Now, let's look at who I ranked 3, 2, and 1 for Denver's 7 picks. Coming in at number 3, I'm going to go with running back RJ Harvey. I was not very upbeat about this pick when it was made. I'm not going to try and hide away from that, right? But as time moves on from the draft, inevitably everyone starts to try and be more optimistic because there's no going back at this point, so you might as well have, a half glass full approach to the whole thing. But Harvey at 5'9", 208 pounds, he's not a big back, but he plays bigger than that. He's got some nastiness and some violence to his game. Now, I feel like he can, he can grow as a receiver. He had 20 grabs for 267 yards. There were times where he was kind of like grabbing at the ball, snatching at it, led to a couple of drops. I'm not going to say this is Sean Payton's next Alvin Kamara. I also just, as a group, want us to stop going with this is Sean Payton's next Blink. And I know I've been guilty at that from time to time, but as a community, as a country, can we stop doing that? Because it gets a bit of an nauseating. This is not Sean Payton's next Alvin Kamara. This is RJ Harvey. This is a guy who played a lot of college football at UCF, who unfortunately suffered an injury early on in his career, but put together 2 really strong years the last 2 seasons for the Knights. And he's got plenty to like about his game. And I think he's going to have a very big role in this running backfield, in this committee backfield, which I believe to be a committee, where they've got Estime in the goal line. They've got RJ Harvey on 1st and 2nd down, McLaughlin on 3rd down. And sure, after a year or two, they might place more on Harvey's plate. But for this year, I expect it to be a committee approach at that running back position. So I put Harvey at number 3 on my favorite picks for the draft. Coming in at number 2, I'm going to go with the LSU defensive end, Sai'vion Jones. This was someone that Denver liked so much, they traded back into round 3-4. So clearly the folks in the front office felt like this was someone that we could not risk not falling to us in round 4. So who is this LSU defensive end? Well, for starters, he's big. 6'5", 283 pounds. He's going to play 5 technique. He's going to play defensive end, but he can kick inside. I don't think he's going to be a nose tackle at 283, but you can use him in the B gap. You can line him up over tackles, or between guards and tackles, right? You can have him at that John Franklin Myers role. I think he offers a lot of versatility. I think he can play across the board if needed. So I love that for a rookie to come in there and go, wherever you need me, I can play that spot. I'm not one-dimensional. Now, the production is why he was a late 3rd round pick. He started 2 years for the Tigers. Didn't really break out as much as folks in Baton Rouge would have hoped for in his final year, but he's got a really good athletic build to his body. And while the production may not pop out at you, in late round 3, I'm not really expecting to find guys with immense production. Those guys go early in the draft. So at that spot, I like the high upside type of player that you were getting in someone who can play across the defensive line, who's got good speed, height, weight, length, and I think can be someone that replaces John Franklin Myers and could start as early as 2026. By the end of this season, I think he could be a major piece of that rotation on the defensive line. And the Broncos go into the offseason going, hey, 2 of our 3 defensive linemen are free agents. But we feel so comfortable with Sai'vion Jones, we can let one go and then replace the other one with a younger, cheaper guy in Jones. And then the 3rd starter on our defensive line is over 30 years old. So we're getting some nice roots planted up front in the trenches for us. Someone who's a bit of a mold, who needs a little bit of fine-tuning, but that's what coaching's all about. Sean Payton and Vance Joseph, get after it. And then at number 1, I went chalk. I went with the Texas cornerback, the Jim Thorpe Award-winning corner, Jahdae Barron, the 20th overall pick in the NFL draft. I understand that could have gone for a little bit more of, sexy or spicy or unexpected pick. But at the end of the day, for the 7 picks Denver made, who's most likely to have the best career? The guy who went first. And I think Barron is most likely to have the best career of this entire draft class. So I'm going to put him at number 1 in my rankings. Last year, 5 interceptions, 3 tackles for loss. He played all over that Texas secondary. He played nickel. He played outside. He played safety. He was a reliable team captain. He was someone that Texas knew that they could count on in the secondary, in the back end, not giving up a single touchdown in coverage. I like Barron a lot as a player. Coming out of Texas, there was a lot to get drawn to. I didn't think he'd even be there at 20. Everyone mocked him to the Dolphins at 13. They needed a corner. They were going to trade and still are going to trade Jalen Ramsey. Barron comes in with a ton of versatility. And I would love to have known what Denver's original plan was and how around pick 16, maybe 17, they go, guys, we were looking at players A, B, and C. We didn't count on Barron to be there. And there were phone calls made for Denver's pick. The Broncos go, we can't trade out of this anymore. This guy's available. We think he could be a Pro Bowler with Pat Surtain, and Patrick Mahomes' run of cruising through AFC West secondaries is done. It's over. PS2, Barron, Hufanga. This is John Taffer on the sideline going, shut it down for Mahomes, Herbert, and whoever the hell the Raiders toss out for the next decade. Now, some pros on Barron, just to get everyone, up to speed on him in a bite-sized form. He's got great fluidity in coverage, which I know that's kind of a cliche, but for corners, you don't want stiffness, right? You want guys that can wiggle. You want guys that can twist on a dime. High football IQ and instincts. You don't get 5 interceptions by just being at the right place at the right time 5 different times. No. You've got good vision, you read the quarterback, and you put yourself in a spot to be successful. You make your own luck. He's a playmaker. 3 career non-offensive touchdowns. Scoop and score, blocked punt, blocked field goal, pick 6 as well. This is a guy that just has a knack for, being at the right place at the right time and not by accident. And now for some cons, because I do want to, keep it kind of balanced a little bit here, because while I do like Barron a lot, he's not perfect. He's on the smaller end. He's below 6 foot. He's not going to have great length to probably hang out with some of the bigger receivers on the outside. Like if you, a few years ago, if you stuck him with Mike Williams from the Chargers, probably not a good recipe for success in the red zone. He's going to have, the receiver a few inches on him. So he played bigger than his size indicated, but that's definitely something to be, mindful of. I don't think he is a world-class, sprinter or track star. He's got good speed and he's probably got better quickness than speed. I don't know if he's going to necessarily thrive in a situation where you stick him outside against a tall, speedy guy and you have him go step for step 40 yards down the field. Probably not using his services to the best of its abilities. And that's where the vertical challenge comes in. So I like him inside for Denver long term. So those are my 7 favorite picks for the Broncos. Let me know who your favorite pick was in this draft. It's fun to kind of factor in what round you got him in, right? If you like the round 1 pick, but you love the 3rd round pick, then it's okay to flip-flop those 2 right there. So who is it? Let me know in the comment section below who your favorite draft pick was by the Paytons this year. $69 people tuned in. Very nice. Okay, that's all right. I'm going to give a couple of quick shout-outs here. G-Trons, first time watching live. Howdy. Welcome aboard. Happy to have you here. Nathan Miller is in the chat. Quentin Caldwell. Moss is taller. One of the other unfortunate consequences of the Barron pick was no one had a negative thing to say about Riley Moss or Jaquan McMillan before the draft. And then once they selected Barron, people felt the need to drag those guys down to justify the Barron pick, given that from a positional need standpoint, it was not very high. Riley Moss was very good last year. It was his second year in the NFL, his first year as a starter, and we saw how important he was when he missed a month with an injury. He doesn't have to be this instant Pro Bowler to be a good player or a good pick. We need to exercise more patience, and remember, not everyone's going to be Pat Surtain. Just because they're not doesn't mean they're bad. There are a lot of teams that after watching last year would go, we'd love to have Riley Moss on our roster. Lord of Liberty says Sai'vion Jones. Josh, you put a space in between the hashtag and the Broncos. Copy and paste that message, toss it back in, remove the space. It needs to be together, otherwise our software is not going to find it when it scans the chat. Quentin, I appreciate you hanging out with us in the chat. Let's get a question out of you, buddy. Hashtag Broncos in the chat, please. Riley Moss. Let's do Riley Moss Combine. Okay. Riley Moss at the Combine measured in at 6'1". Jahdae Barron at the Combine. 5'11". So, can we stop this idea that they're the same size? They're not, factually. Unless Barron just starts stretching a lot every morning. No. So, I don't understand how people can be factually so wrong about that. There's at least an inch and a half difference between the two. One's 5'11", one's 6'1". Maybe he's like a tall 5'11", and Moss is a short 6'1", but that might seem like a lot, but for a corner, an inch, it does mean a lot. Like this much, that's the difference between breaking up a pass or it going over your hand for a touchdown. All right, we have nearly 75 people tuned in right now, 35 likes. If you haven't yet, click that thumbs up button. And we're going to jump into our next segment, which is all about a certain someone who is reminiscent of a Broncos Pro Bowl player. Let me know when we are ready, Mr. Moustakis. Okay, greatly appreciate everyone for watching with us. I want a question from Quentin Caldwell in the chat. And G-Tron, it's your first time in the chat. You better get a question in. So Josh, fix yours. Get rid of the space between the Broncos and the hashtag. All right. I'm ready whenever you are. Here we go. So the Denver Broncos just got some pretty good news on their third-round pick out of Illinois, which is wide receiver Pat Bryant, because a former coach now of Bryant and Courtland Sutton has said there are a lot of similarities between these two players. And if I told you or George or Sean Payton that Pat Bryant would be even 90% of Courtland Sutton, for finding him in round 3, I think they make that pick 10 times out of 10. So Sutton and Bryant, if you don't know, had the same wide receiver coach. This was Bryant's wide receiver coach at Illinois, who has hopped around a little bit. But after the draft, let's be honest, everyone is just looking for evidence and for more reasons to believe their teams made good picks. Am I wrong? We're all searching for confirmation that the pick that your favorite team made was a good one. And so when I see the Illinois wide receiver coach say positive things about Pat Bryant, I'm not surprised. He's gassing up his own guy. But when he can go into such detail about Broncos wide receiver Pro Bowler Courtland Sutton, it makes you feel even more confident that he's not just saying it to pump your tires. Now, I want to share 2 quotes with you guys here. The first quote coming from Pat Bryant himself about his game and what you can expect to see out of it, because I think you guys will get a good kick out of this, saying, "My main focus when the ball is in the air is it's mine, and I'm better than the man that's in front of me." I mean, that's not quite run through wall type of stuff right there, but maybe that's run through like a Nerf Jello wall. Like, you're going to feel pretty good about this pick when you hear stuff like that coming from a rookie. Someone that wants to get on the field and use that size to just pluck balls out of the air from DBs in front of him. And for the Broncos, think about historically their wide receivers. Courtland Sutton, Demaryius Thomas, Rod Smith. Those are guys who use their size and their strength and their physicality to impose their will on DBs. And if Bryant can be the next one in that line, man, he's going to be an instant fan favorite. But on top of that one, the Illinois wide receiver coach also said, quote, he's just like Courtland. I think we can all agree that if you are finding someone who is just like Courtland, we're all going to be very excited about that pick. Sutton had a great start to his NFL career. It sucks they tore his ACL because it felt like that took, not just, of course, that whole season out of him, the 2020 season, but also he really wasn't even 100% in 2021, and we didn't start to get back to pre-injured Sutton until 2023. But last year was, I'd say, the best year of his NFL career. Factor in all the circumstances. He's got a rookie quarterback. He's going into the final few years of his contract. He's getting up in the age column. Maybe not as fast as he once was. And despite that, he was the number one go-to guy for the Broncos passing attack. So I'm excited for this pick now. What inevitably happens is for 95% of picks made, I'm going to warm up to them. I'm going to talk myself into them. I'm going to try and be half glass full. I'm going to try to be optimistic. And sure, I felt like this was a little bit of a reach at the time, but the more I read, the more I consume, the more excited I get, because there are some similarities between these two guys. Go back to, Bryant in 2024 in Urbana-Champaign, and then Courtland Sutton's final year with the SMU Mustangs back in 2017. If you felt like Bryant was, a little bit underwhelming from a production standpoint, he's not very far off from what Sutton did his last year in Dallas. Just over 1,000 yards, 100 more yards than Bryant, 2 more touchdowns. And I think that's why Sutton goes, what was it, 34 spots earlier? Sutton was the 40th overall pick, I think. Yeah, and Bryant was 74th, 75th, something like that. So 35 spots later, and maybe a few percentage points behind Sutton. But if in round 3 you're finding someone at the next level who can give you 750 yards and 5 touchdowns for 4 straight years, I'll take that. Pick 75, yeah. I can be happy with that type of production. So here's a bit more bite-sized stuff on Bryant, just so you can walk away from this video going, I've got a better understanding as to who Denver just got in the draft. 1, rapid improvement over the last 3 years. That's something that you think that really jumps out to me, is the way he improved his craft and just worked on it throughout his entire time at Illinois. You like to see that as a scout, as a GM, to go, this is a guy that put in the work in the offseason. He's got good body control. He's got the ability to, this is a bit of a cliche, but when the ball's in the air, to have an understanding of where I am, where the ball is, where the defender is, and where the sideline is. They make that look so much easier on TV than it really is. I also think his ability to win a lot of 50-50 balls is going to make him a bit of a, favorite for Bo Nix. He's going to have his quarterback's trust of, hey, if you throw it in my direction, I'm not going to interrupt your passing stats. We're going to get the grab, not the INT. So those are 3 pros that jump out to me about Bryant. Now, as for some cons, he is not the fastest cat on the field. He ran a 4.61 40-yard dash. He's probably not going to be a vertical burner for you. So the burst, the long end speed, it's not quite there. Now, at times there were some issues with drops and concentration and focus. That is something that I can look at and go, you can coach that. You can't coach speed. I can get coaching on catching the football. And that's what NFL coaches are there to do. Far too often, I feel like people believe that when players go from college to the pros, they're expected to be a finished product. However good you are in college is how good you'll be at the NFL. No, you have a wide receiver coach for a reason. His job is to make those guys as good as they possibly can be. So when I see things like that, I don't view that as this player's no good for me. That's a problem. I view that as, looks like this coach has some work to do because that's his job. And then, what was the third and final con we had written down for him? We'll get that on screen for you in just a moment here. Here it is. Not a great run blocker. This is one that is a little bit like a trial by fire, I'll say. Meaning, we're going to learn just how effective he can be in open space because in college, sometimes you don't ask your receivers to really stand out in this regard. You try to limit how much you put on their plate. So I'm hopeful that he can, with that bigger frame, develop into a good run blocker and maybe be like what Denver, was hoping to get a little bit more out of Little Jordan Humphrey was a bigger guy who was good with the ball in his hands, tough to bring down. All right, before we sign off, a couple quick things here. One, make sure to subscribe to the channel. We've got free content all year long. There's no paywall. There's not like put your credit card information in and unsubscribe or we're going to charge you in a week. No, that does not happen here. So get the best free content all year long when you are subscribed. Now, while we're on this just overall topic, a quick little update on Courtland Sutton, who is searching for a contract extension. We're nearing OTAs, which are voluntary, then mandatory minicamp. Last year, he did not show up to the voluntary stuff. He did show up to mandatory minicamp. And so we'll see what he does this year as he has 1 year left on his contract. He's approaching 30 years old. The Bryant pick, I think, is a combination of, hey, Denver saw a receiver that they liked. And maybe it's a bit of a happy accident or happy coincidence that he happens to have the similar play style of Sutton. So if they were to move on from that boundary X type receiver, next year they could have someone who can step in and fill that void, right? So you're not just searching for any receiver, but you've already got one who fills that role that Sutton played so well the last couple of years. So I'm hopeful that some type of extension can be reached, because I do feel like Sutton has some good football in him still. I understand that when you're getting towards 30, that's usually not the time you want to talk about giving someone an extension. But I'm willing to make a bit of a gamble on Sutton. And I'd like to see him continue to stick around for Bo Nix. So I'm not talking big, crazy extension, but I think even if you can just get a 1 year deal, right? Lock him up for the next 2 seasons. Give him a 1 year fully guaranteed contract. I don't hate it. By no means am I advertising for Denver to go out there and give him, high $20 million range. But the guy's making $15 million right now. What if you got him up to a 1 year, $20 million contract, right? Play out the final year of his contract this year, and then 2026, he's on the books for 1 year, $20 million. It's barely even top 20, I think, at $20 million. I'd like to see that happen. I'd like to see Sutton continue to play with Nix and go from there. So we'll see what comes out of all this right here. Okay, I think that's everything we have on today's show. So let me know, would you extend Courtland Sutton? Or better yet, how about this? Over or under 1,000 yards for number 14 this upcoming season. Give me an O for over. Give me a U for under down below in the comment section. That's all right, don't worry. All right, we've got a mailbag coming up next. So get those questions in. Oh, Josh, I like that. Pat reminds me of a slower version of Tim Patrick. For third round, I would hope for a little bit more. But if he is somewhat like Tim Patrick, I think you're going to be happy with the player. We got to get some questions in. So use hashtag Broncos. Get those questions flowing right now. I want to get a question. Quentin, did you get a question in? I want to get a question from Quentin in. Josh, you got to get your question back in there, but you got to delete the space between the hashtag and the Broncos. Danny, thank you for getting your question in. Aaron Gonzalez and Rodney Bryant, I want to see questions from you two. Same goes for G-Trons. Throw your questions in right now. Hashtag Broncos. Fire it on in. Moose, you want to just shout out a couple people in the chat? 1 second.
We need a couple more questions from people, but I'm going to give some shout-outs as we speak. Aaron Gonzalez, what's up, brother? I see you. Rodney, I see you. Judson, what's up, dude? Oscar, thank you for using hashtag Broncos. Appreciate it. Joshua.
Oscar, thank you for getting your question in, indeed. Quentin, I'm going to keep picking on you until you get a question in. Hashtag Broncos. G-Trons, you got to put hashtag Broncos in there. If you don't put the hashtag Broncos in, our software cannot find your question in the chat and put it on screen. So just copy your question and paste it in there, please. Quentin, you put your question in? Okay. I might owe you an apology. I might have missed it. I want to see one from Aaron Gonzalez next and Joshua Kirby. Yep. Get a few more questions in there. G-Trons, just hashtag Broncos at the beginning or end of your question. Josh, thank you for fixing that question. Appreciate it. Do we get Josh's question in there? Judson's got a question in. Okay. If you think of something, throw a hashtag Broncos in the chat, and we'll throw it on for everyone tuning in to see. All right. I am ready whenever you guys are. All right, one moment.
One more request. We've got 60 people watching, and we are 3 likes away from 50. If you have not already liked the video, go ahead, hit that thumbs up.
Thank you, Aaron. Thank you, Kenneth. Greatly appreciate it. All right, here we go. Before we start today's mailbag, do me a big favor right now and click that thumbs up button down below if you love the Denver Broncos. Now, I am live right now on our show, which airs every single Tuesday, so I'm answering questions from Tuesday during the mailbag, which we'll start off with Danny's question saying, worried about Greenlaw already getting hurt. So Dre Greenlaw did suffer a strained quad while working out. He is not expected to miss time in 2025. As a result, I'm guessing that they're going to be extra cautious with him during OTAs and minicamp. So it'll be a little bit of a downer not to see him on the field when, the whole team starts to get together for practice. But if he's ready for training camp, I'm not going to be upset or concerned about it. If he's not ready for training camp, at that point, it'll be like 2 months from the injury. And then we can start to get a little bit uneasy, but let's wait until the end of July 1st. Danny, thank you so much for your question. Joshua Kirby, hey, Petey, can we get your best guess at how many AFC West interceptions the Broncos' new no-fly zone will get this season? Only against Mahomes, Herbert, and Geno Smith. So 6 games between those 3 quarterbacks right there. I'm going to say they pick off Patrick Mahomes 3 times. Twice at home, once on the road, which might sound a bit ambitious, but they had no issue doing that the last couple times against him. Herbert, I'm going to say, give me 1 interception. 1 at home. Herbert's been very smart with the football, and that Harbaugh offense has not put the ball in harm's way. Geno, he was a bit more reckless last year. I'll go with 3 picks for Geno. Give me 2 in Vegas, 1 in Denver. So what does that equal out to? 7 picks altogether for Denver and a total of 6 games against their AFC West opponents. Aaron Gonzalez, what's going on? Do you think the Broncos take a step forward or do they take a step back to become a Super Bowl contenders once again? I think Denver in 2025 goes 10-7. So you can look at that as one of 2 ways, staying still, step back, step forward. I think the AFC West just got better with Pete Carroll and Geno Smith in Las Vegas. So those 2 wins you had last year are not going to be quite as easy this year. And you went 0 for 2 against the Chargers last year, and I don't think they're going to get any easier as an opponent this season as well. Should have gone 2-0 against the Chiefs, but shoulda, coulda, woulda. But at the end of the day, I'm going to say Denver goes 10-7, and it's not like a slap against them. I think it's just a reflection of, hey, the AFC West got a little bit tougher this year, and now teams are going to have a bigger target on you because they know to expect more out of you. Richie Baez, how strong is our special teams? Well, Darren Rizzi was the special teams coordinator in Miami, then in New Orleans for Sean Payton before he took over as the head coach, interim head coach, when Dennis Allen was fired. The special teams unit last year I felt like was good, not great. And it could have been great if they didn't have such boneheaded mistakes, like just ignoring Alex Forsyth as a liability at the left tackle spot on the field goal, blocking unit or field goal blocking unit. So I think special teams with Marvin Mims as a return man and Rizzi just tightening all the other loose screws across the board is going to have Denver as a top 5 special teams unit in 2025. Richie, thank you so much for your question. Judson Cake, who are they getting rid of when they signed Travis? Is this the South Dakota running back? Probably nobody. I haven't heard anything about signing him, so unless I'm behind on the times, it would probably just be like a rookie minicamp invite. They did that last year with Ben DiNucci, and then he ended up making the 90-man. Well, he ended up being placed on the 90-man roster. He did not make the 53-man roster, so there might be 1 or 2 rookies that get invited to minicamp, but they don't have to, cross that bridge of finding a roster spot until they get there. Quentin Caldwell, and then we'll tell everyone about our friends over at Prize Picks. Do you think John Franklin Myers will get a new contract? They got to extend Nick Bonito, which they don't have to do it this offseason. I think a Nick Bonito extension happens midseason. They did that with Sutton. They did that with Tim Patrick. I could see that being a November extension for the Broncos. Zach Allen needs an extension. He's got 1 year left on his deal. That's a bit more of a priority to me. I think that happens over the summer. I think that happens in July or August. I think a Zach Allen extension gets done first. I think John Franklin Myers does not get a new deal before the season begins. I think they let that play out. They see where things go in the season. And if they can strike a little bit of a hometown deal with him, then they will. But at that point, if Franklin Myers is playing well, he may decide to wait till free agency. I think for Bonito, Allen, and JFM, it's in that order for priority by Denver to get a deal done. Before we look at the other questions on today's mailbag, big special shout out to our friends over at Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best place to turn your sports knowledge into cash. With millions of members, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 2,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. Every Tuesday, Prize Picks will discount several projections on the board, usually by 15 to 25%. They also have Flex Friday as well. They've got so many fun things going on. So, if you want to get started, head on over to Prize Picks. It's super simple to do. You just select more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. I put all this information down in the comments and description of today's video. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. Our next question coming in from Kenneth Kirkpatrick. What room are you most concerned with heading into training camp? Probably tight end, which sounds weird because Evan Ingram was a fun signing. Evan Ingram missed half the season last year. You are one Evan Ingram away from literally being back to the same top 3 tight ends you had a year ago, which was the worst production from any tight end room in the National Football League. We'll just do quick on the fly here. I don't want to speak this into existence, but I do feel like I'd be somewhat naive if I just acted that Evan Ingram is a guaranteed lock to play every game. So Evan Ingram in his career has missed 4 or more games in 1, 2, 3 out of 8 seasons. So it's not a huge percentage, but you are closing in on nearly a coin flip that he goes on IR at some point, right? That he misses 4 games at least. For it being about 40 to 45% chance of that happening just based on his career, I'd like to see one more addition made at that spot because I don't have faith in the rest of the tight end room to pick up the slack. Lord of Liberty. Hey, Petey. Hey. Do you think Payton took Harvey so we can get explosives from another source other than Bo Nix's arm? The other backs seemed like platters. I think Sean Payton selected RJ Harvey because he would fit the missing piece of that running back room well. Someone who has a little bit of physicality to their game, who has receiving upside, who can be spread around a little bit, who may not pop out in one specific area, but can work well in a committee backfield. If he wanted to get a true bell cow back, that would have been Caleb Johnson. That would have been Omarion Hampton. That would have been my preferred route. I don't see eye to eye with Payton on the running back position. I like a bit more of an old school 3-down back. Someone who can kind of run into the ground a little bit. Payton likes to spread the touches around a little bit. I don't fully agree with that methodology. I feel like a bell cow back, if I have a great bell cow back or a great committee, I'll take the great bell cow back. And I think there were some great bell cow backs out there. G-Trons. Pat's QB at Illinois seemed pretty bad watching Pat's highlights. Do you agree? And just how bad was he? This is Luke Altmaier. He was not very bad. For Illinois, he was above average, competent. Is he someone? I think next year he's going to actually be a bit of a dark horse in college football quarterback world. So I don't agree with this assessment right here. I don't think he is a Heisman contender, or even if you don't feel like he has to be a Heisman contender to be good, I think he is a quality college football quarterback. Danny, what's going on, dude? Am I crazy to be more worried about the Chargers than the Chiefs this season? I see the Chiefs stuffing to get 9 wins. I mean, the Chargers are going to be good. Harbaugh is a good coach. He just is. That team's not going to belly up. And he's in year 2 of getting his guys on that roster. And, of course, every single coach wants their guys. But Harbaugh's got a blueprint to the way he wants to do things. And he's got one more free agency class, one more draft class to get his type of guys in the building. So I don't think you're crazy for this. You'd be a bit of a fortune teller because I'm still going to pick the Chiefs until I am proven wrong. You know what I mean? So crazy, no. Ambitious, yes. And I can't get in that boat with you. But I admire the boat you're in because it took guts. I don't have that kind of guts right now. Aiden, how many primetime games do you think Denver will have this year? Ooh, I like this. One quick ground rule. In my personal rule when it comes to primetime games is I count all standalone NFL games as primetime games. If you are the only game on, you're primetime in my eyes. They may not fall under traditional broadcast definition of primetime, but if you play in London, if you play in Brazil on Friday, if you play Monday, Thursday, any of those nights, and you're the only one on, you're primetime to me because the NFL is saying we want everyone to watch you and only you. So with that being said, I think they are going to get a Thursday night game, probably a divisional game, right? They tend to do that a lot with Denver. They got 2 loud. They flexed them into the second one. I'm going to say they got a Sunday night game and a Monday night game. Holidays. Maybe they play the Chiefs on Christmas Day. Kansas City really wants to have Christmas Day be theirs. I'll go with 4. If they don't get a holiday, then they get a second Monday night or Sunday night game. I'll go with 4 standalone games for Denver in 2025. All right, that's going to do it for us on today's, one backtrack. they're going to end up playing 5. They're going to get flexed into 1. I think the initial schedule will have them down for 4 standalone games, and they will get flexed into 1. So 4.5. All right, that will do it for us on today's show. Thank you all so much for tuning in. If you haven't yet, do me a big favor. Click that like button at the bottom and subscribe to the channel for more free coverage on your favorite team. All right. Josh, who do we want to see the Chargers play in Brazil? That field is genuinely frightening, hoping for as little injuries as possible regardless. All right, let me look at the Chargers' opponents. Are the Chargers hosting that game? Brazil? I believe you're right. I just can't remember. NFL 2025. Yeah, Chargers are hosting. Okay, LA Chargers opponents. Last year we had NFC on NFC. I doubt we get a divisional game. That's just very rare for overseas. So, home opponents. They've got the AFC South with the Colts and the Texans. They've got the Steelers. I think the Steelers are playing in like Dublin, I believe. Commanders, Eagles, Vikings. I think the Vikings might have a London game. I'll say it is Chargers, Texans, Friday night in Brazil. That's something a good matchup. Playoff rematch. Yeah.
I mean, last year was Green Bay, Philadelphia.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Makes sense to do the opposite.
Right. I like that. Okay. All right. That will do it for us on today's show. Thank you all so much for hanging out with us. Hope you have a great rest of your Tuesday, and we'll see you throughout the week.